All right, Kenny Martin, our city manager, here with Justin Beasley, your public information officer. Love when we can get a chance to actually talk with Kenny Martin and have him tell the public of all the great and exciting things that we have in the city of Mount Juliet, which there's really a never-ending story of that. Always something every single month. But first off, we'll start. How's your week going so far?
Absolutely lovely. I love the warmer weather. Even though it's been a little rainy, a little windy, I've absolutely loved it because I got that cabin fever and I'm ready to get out and do some stuff.
Right.
And so with the warmer weather coming, I know a lot of folks don't want winter to be over with yet.
I do.
But I'm ready for spring. I'm the same way.
Absolutely.
I'm
And
ready for some sunshine.
supposedly there's the cold weather is out of the forecast supposedly for February as far as when you look at the seasonal temps, and that just gets me excited. There's going to
does
be
me
6
too.
weeks of winter regardless, but if it's a warm winter, I'm
I'll
all
take it.
for it.
I'll take it. You know, we had that one little winter blast, and I think there's a very good possibility. Everybody doesn't know right now, and I'm encouraging folks to just hang on tight like I am. But I've already dug up at least 3 bushes because I'm like, well, even if they're not dead, I wanted them to go anyway. But these others, all my hollies and my laurel bushes, I hope they're going to be fine. I encourage people just to hang on to see if they're going to come back and bloom back. I know everybody's asking that question, but that was enough for winter right there for me. It may have ruined all my landscaping.
We'll have plenty of time to get to that. Kenny, great businesses coming specifically to Providence. 5 that come to mind that you know of, and
Yeah.
one that's already actually here in Providence
Yeah.
as of Friday, and that's Lovesac. Tell me
Yeah.
about Lovesac, and quite the buzz on social media about it coming to Mount Juliet.
It is, it is. Anytime you get additional furniture, I think we've all been in a situation before where we tried to buy that sectional couch for a house, you know, and you could get the L-shaped, or you could get this or get that. What's so neat about Lovesac, and what that stands for is Love Sactionals. They call them Sactionals, not sectionals. And what's neat about it is you can literally get different pieces to where no matter what room you move it to, you don't have that odd open end, you know, where sometimes you can see
Right.
the brackets and the clips. And they've got, I think they're interchangeable parts, and I think the covers come off and they wash them. And so
Great
once I
for
got,
little ones.
they are, exactly. And once I got in, and my son and daughter-in-law, we got 4 grandbabies, and they've had a couple of different sectionals since they've been married. And they could never find that right setup. You know, there's always that piece where you go to sit down and, you know, the pieces separate and you fall down into the crack of the sectional. And so they finally got that figured out, and found that piece when all of a sudden we get this new company that comes to town. And so that's what they specialize in, and that's what they're really good at. And I've heard rave reviews about that. So it's always neat when you get a business like that you can patronize in your own community without having to drive somewhere. So that's going to be a really good addition.
It's a huge store online, but you can physically go there. I went there last Friday, and you can feel the fabrics. You can see what it actually looks like. You know, old school like we are, nothing like putting your hands on it.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
that'll be a big addition to our community, and we're so dependent on sales tax. So please patronize their business.
Yeah.
Give them a warm Mount Juliet welcome. Another business that comes to mind, Journeys and American Eagle, huge among the
They are.
teenagers in high school.
They are, yeah. Matter of fact, at my age, I'm still wearing some of the old American Eagle clothes that my
It's great.
son, when he was in high school, before he went to college, I never got that stuff. My wife always bought my son the best, and I ended up with just the hand-me-down. So when he
Yeah.
left, we were about the same size. So it looks odd when you see a man my age wearing some American Eagle stuff around, but you can pull it off.
Yeah.
I encourage if you've got it, because it's good stuff. It's soft.
It is.
We've been trying to get American Eagle to come to Mount Juliet for years. So I think the moms and dads and the teens out there really get a kick out of that. I'm excited about it, to have them here and have them come to this particular point so you don't have to go somewhere. It's a very popular retailer, so we're happy to get them.
Absolutely. And then we also have Ferguson Lighting. That's going to be coming a little
Yep.
bit later this summer, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, and that's huge for folks out there like me that's been in your house maybe 15, 20 years, or just looking to upgrade your house. They do bath, kitchen, and lighting, galleries. So I assume that means like faucets and things of that nature. And so if you've ever updated your house or your faucets and fixtures, you can go to this place and they've got it all. I mean, it's like one-stop shopping, so you don't have to go anywhere for that again. And I know lots of people. As a matter of fact, we probably are at a point now at our house, we've been there about 18 years, that we need to replace some faucets. And, you thought what your sinks and this, that, and the other and fixtures were great then, and you look at it now, it looks a little dated. This is the perfect place to go for that. And it's huge. I want to say it's like a 12,000 square foot store, so it's a big retail outlet, and we're very happy to have them in Mount Juliet as well.
Again, you can shop online there all you want, but physically putting your hands on it, seeing it,
Yep.
kind of getting, the color matches of your house and you know, there's nothing like getting your wife to actually see it, because
Yeah.
if your wife's like mine, she's the one that approves all the purchases
That's right.
anyway.
Well,
So
yeah, you think about
so
light
we
and
need to-
fixtures. You know, you think about years ago when a lot of people remember this. You had light fixtures like wagon wheels and, you know, Gothic looking or candelabras or just over the top. You know, these stones and crystals. And we even thought at one time that gold doorknobs and gold hinges were the big thing. Well, now everything's nickel or it's bronze and things of that nature. So it's quick how fast your house can become dated just on those kind of fixtures. So they got stuff now you can just touch and speak to and do different things, which is amazing. So if you got a leaky faucet at the house and you're looking to do some upgrades, this is the place to go.
No doubt. And that'll come this summer. And then we have Blush Boot Camp as well. I'm going to show a photo of that. A great gym to go to and get your exercise worth. And Kenny, if you can speak to that, and just as being the economic development director, whenever you see a need in a spot, as much as another business is looking at Mount Juliet with how great the lifestyle is here, your job is to find the right spot for each of those as far as square footage, right part of town.
Yeah.
And that takes a lot of work. Sometimes it doesn't come to fruition, but a lot of the times it does. And you're the kind of go-between with that.
Yeah.
And if anybody is going to be put in a position to succeed here, they got to call Kenny Martin first.
Well, we like doing that at the city. I just happen to be in the position where a lot of times I know of folks that have been here for a long time, they're looking to, to move, or some business closes. I think a lot of times citizens or the public thinks that the city controls who does and doesn't come. For example, if a gas station goes in or a mattress store, we got, kidded about that for a while. We don't really dictate that. If somebody's looking to lease, for give you an example, when O'Charlie's closed here in Mount Juliet, we tried really hard to put another restaurant in, and that restaurant, I can speak to it, is Chuy's. We really wanted Chuy's going to it, because we've been trying to get Chuy's restaurant to come to Mount Juliet for a long time. We got them really super excited about that spot, but unfortunately, we don't own the building. So the folks that own the building, for them, they're thinking a long-term lease, they're thinking of the tenant, and in this particular case, fortunately, we're tickled to get a new business that replaces an old business, so we don't want to say that we're disappointed that the bank's coming, but there's so many more people that we're excited about a Chuy's coming or another eatery to go to.
Right.
And we tried very hard. We had them as they were in the top three of the business to go into the old Charlie's. But ultimately, the owners of the building felt like it was in their best interest to go with a bank. Now, I know that's not, exciting news necessarily for the community, but it is for the people that bought the building, because they're looking at it from a long term of 20-year lease as opposed to 5-year. And unfortunately, restaurants come and go, and sometimes they don't last long. And now you've got this deal to where a building's been converted to something and you can't use it for the future. Banks normally, once they come, they stay. So I get that. But the good news is we're still looking for a site for Chuy's.
Near 40, correct?
Yeah, near
the
40.
interstate.
And that could be Golden Bear. They really want to be around the interstate. And that's what's exciting about the news coming for Golden Bear, is it's that blank canvas where you can sort of set day one sort of what you want and everything to look like. So just know out there we're working hard to get Chuy's. We hate that we weren't able to plug them into the old Charlie's. But the owners dictate that, and we support it. We understand where they're coming from on that lease.
I've said the name a million times, but the name escapes me right now. There's another restaurant from Knoxville that's looking actually between 70 and City Hall, basically, which
Yes.
you see most restaurants, they want to be in Providence. This one is in a different spot, and again, you're there to hopefully help that
Yep.
happen. But what's that restaurant name again?
It's called Abernathy's.
Abernathy's,
Yeah,
okay.
Abernathy's. And if you've Googled it, if you get a chance to look at it, they say it's a cross between a higher-end steakhouse and a higher-end cheddar, sort of somewhere in the middle. I've looked at their menu, and it's excellent. They're actually looking right now in the heart of Mount Juliet Road, in the Curd Road area. And you would think, why would they do that? Well, it's really smart, because if you can position yourself in the middle, you make yourself easier to get to and get out of the density. And if people want to eat, they'll make it a destination. Some of your neatest
And wait.
That's right, and they'll wait. And some of your neatest restaurants aren't always necessarily in the thick of things. They may be on the outskirts. They may be just off the beaten path. Because when you're hungry, you're looking at that. They're not necessarily dependent upon drive-by traffic.
Right.
So very excited about that. Working hard on it. Those aren't done yet, because you got to find that perfect spot. And then, of course, once you find the spot that we feel like is great for them, then their corporate offices have to determine if it's perfect for them. Then you get into, well, is the price worth it? What's it going to cost if they rent as opposed to buy? And there's just so many different variables that go into that we have no control over. We just have to make sure the zoning is appropriate to allow a restaurant to go in, or whatever the particular business is, because you can't put a gas station in a neighborhood. You can't put a bowling alley in a neighborhood. But those are all things we need for conveniences and for family entertainment. We want a bowling center, but nobody wants it necessarily in their neighborhood. So it's hard sometimes to find that perfect spot, because a bowling alley, entertainment venue is gonna be somewhere between 30 and 70,000 square feet.
And as big of a task as that is, you know, we're all public servants, and you on a greater scale, you're helping each of those potential businesses.
Yep.
If they're going to come here or not, you're there to serve them and just help them however you can. So we certainly appreciate you. We know that you don't get a lot of thanks for that, and you should. So
Well, I get some of the blame sometimes too, which sometimes deservedly so, because, you know, I get excited. I'll give you an example. A lot of folks around here want a laundromat. You know, because a lot of the young folks, you know, or even people like myself that have these huge comforters and quilts, you don't really have a place to wash it. And we'd love to have one here. I think a laundromat would be great in Mount Juliet, and I'm working to do that. But a lot of times, because so many people here do have washing machine and dryers, they don't feel like they'd get enough business. Wouldn't be enough people either without them, or that would, you know, in other words, you'd hate to open up something like that, put a state-of-the-art laundromat in, and nobody come. But we're listening all the time, the residents, to what they want. You know, like the chicken salad chicks of the world and things of that nature, you know, the first watches. And trust me, we contact those folks, and sometimes we're disappointed they choose to go somewhere else, but we understand they've got to do what they think's best for them. But just know out there that we're always working, we're listening. If somebody says they want a restaurant, we're trying to get it. And the upper scale restaurants, when you think of like a Whole Foods or something like that, a grocery store, when you think of upper scale restaurants, people think of PF Chang's and high-end steakhouse and things of that nature. The bigger our population gets, the more likely we are to get that, because they look at demographics, but they also look at populations. You know, they understand from the demographics and the per capita income what it's going to take for somebody to be able to have that disposable income to spend that much on a meal.
they've got it down to a science.
They do. They've got it down to science. So that's why you notice in a lot of cities like Franklin or Murfreesboro, some of the cities that are bigger, sometimes 3 times the size of Mount Juliet, the reason they are getting those things has more to do with the population than it does anything. Because Mount Juliet's demographics actually here, per capita income is higher now than even Hendersonville and Spring Hill. So when you think of that, and we're just slightly behind Franklin. So the folks in Mount Juliet are doing extremely well.
It's a compliment to the city.
It's a compliment to the city. It's a compliment to what's going on in our community as far as safety, the building requirements, things of that nature, and the people that live here. You know, education levels, hard work. They're really good at saving their money so that they can, you know, buy and do different things. That's why you're seeing Cadillac and Honda and Ford and, you know, Dodge, Chrysler, Jeep, and all those folks that are here.
Means Mount Juliet's on the map.
That's exactly right. They know that people feel comfortable coming here, and people that are here also like that convenience. If you get a new car, you can have it serviced at your local dealership.
You talk about being frugal, and I know you've done a great job of that as the city manager. Every time I'm on with Coleman Walker on 1 FM, he's like, where's the city at with the next budget year? You guys in the driver's seat. And you can always answer that question and say yes, because we have been frugal. We're live here at City Hall, normally at a business. Couldn't find a business today specifically at this time frame, but we'll be at businesses in the future. But can you tell our citizens maybe that are new to Mount Juliet where City Hall is, the history of it? I think we moved it in 1995, and just how the city has been so resourceful of using existing buildings to then move into to save money so we can put it towards roads, infrastructure, and the things that matter. Well, we don't have to have the Taj Mahal.
That's right.
We want our citizens to have the Taj Mahal.
Yeah, exactly. When you live in a community, of course, I started the city 33 years ago, and I was the 5th police officer. So you think about back then, and you look at how far we've come with the equipment and other things and life-saving measures. We're always going to put public safety first. That's why police, fire, and EMS is such important for the city. And I could not commend past leadership, current leadership more, especially our elected body, for putting those things first. The reason you don't see a lot of the extras in Mount Juliet, like you may see in some communities, is we've always had either no property tax, right, for many, many years. We've only had a real property tax for about 10 years now, and that's 11 cents. So that generates for the city about $2 million a year, and it's entirely, you know, and our budget may be $30, $40 million a year. So the property tax itself doesn't go a long way in creating the services. What creates services in Mount Juliet is the sales tax revenue. It's the money that not only do our citizens spend here in patronizing businesses, but the people that feel comfortable in coming to Mount Juliet and shopping. Now, I know that the downside of that is that you get the traffic from it, but the trade-off is that you get the convenience of, on the old days, and for folks out there that's lived here long enough to remember, used to be if you wanted something, you had a 30-minute drive one way to go to Rivergate or Hickory Hollow.
And then sat in their traffic.
Sit in their traffic.
You've often told me.
Yeah, so it went from 30 minutes one way to 30 minutes back. That's an hour to what feels like an eternity sometimes when you're sitting in it. But in reality, with Golden Bear Parkway, if we're really honest with ourselves and we look at our watch and we set it, some days it's worse than others, but in our minds it feels longer. And we get that. We totally get that. What makes Mount Jewett so unique when it comes to the traffic, and one of the questions I get a lot is, why didn't they widen the roads before these things come in? Well, if you go back when Providence was built, the plan was Mount Jewett Road and the Central Pike interchange would be put in and widened within 5 years. So we felt like at that particular point, and the state did, since Mount Jewett Road's a state road, that the traffic would be much better, and it would have been. That's why we're still talking, but unfortunately, we're still talking about the Central Pike interchange today. And in the state's defense, a lot of times best laid plans don't always work out as you hope, and the money just simply wasn't there at the state level. Matter of fact, right now, I want to say there's billions of dollars of road projects in the queue, but only millions of dollars to do it.
Right.
So they have to be real selective about what road projects.
And they're dispersed within the 3 jurisdictions of Middle, East, West Tennessee.
Yeah.
And then the government municipalities within Middle Tennessee. There's only so much money to go around.
That's right. And Mount Juliet itself, and elected leadership, I want to commend them. This is a perfect opportunity for me to give them a big pat on the back, and our citizens, because if it wasn't for the sales tax money, our mayor and commission wouldn't have been able to recently go to the state and have this meeting with the governor where they said, we want to help pay for half of the Central Pike interchange. That's $25 million for a city that doesn't have a whole lot of money just sitting around for stuff like that. But because we have been frugal, and we've been real smart in our money by utilizing older structures, right, that are still serviceable, they just may not be Taj Mahals, we're able to make deals like that with the state where we say, hey, our offers, we want to be equal partners with you, even though the city of Mount Juliet only goes south to Central Pike. So if you think about all the other traffic that comes from Nashville, Antioch, Rutherford County, Gladeville, all those areas out there, that they're growing like crazy as well. So even if we stopped today and said no more growth just in the city limits of Mount Juliet, which is about 28 to 30 square miles, you still have thousands of miles outside of us, or hundreds of miles, I'd say. If you look at the circumference of Mount Juliet, it's growing all the way around us. The thing about Mount Juliet is it's so perfectly situated with I-40 that a lot of people are avoiding 24 and even 65, or in 24 in particular, to come down South Mount Juliet Road into Mount Juliet, because you can hit 40 and get to Nashville quicker than you can sitting on 24 on the interstate.
Right.
So a lot of our traffic is not the doings of the city of Mount Juliet. It's just the fact that Middle Tennessee is growing so rapidly.
The belt, yeah.
Yep, and so I want to make this point clear as well is, from what we're seeing in growth patterns, that is not going to change even if Mount Juliet denied any future growth in the city limits itself. There's so much growth outside of us is that traffic on Mount Juliet Road is going to continue to increase regardless.
You will feel it regardless.
That's right. So we actually need those sales tax dollars that enable us to build our coffers up so that we then can work those partnerships with the state. That's why you saw what we did with the bridge. That was an equal partnership with the state. Golden Bear Gateway was a city project with the state, and you say, imagine not having that today. And it's a perfect example. These things sometimes take longer than we would wish they would, but when you've got environmental issues, design issues, right-of-way, utilities, you name it, they just take a long time. There's just so many things, and right-of-way has to be a tough thing, because when you're trying to acquire somebody's property, and when I say acquiring, you hear sometimes about taking property. The city is never going to take property. As long as I've been here, I don't know that we've ever done what's called a condemnation, where you just take somebody's property. What we do is, if a road needs to be widened, we'll work with that property owner, just like we did when we widened Mount Juliet Road. That was a state/city project, the same as we did when we did Golden Bear. We have to work with folks, because there's no way to widen a road without taking a little bit of property, but taking means purchasing it. It's what's called land value, whatever the value would be for that property, fair market value. So that's important to me too, because we love our city, we love our citizens, we're listening all the time, and it's hard to get everything right perfect the day you plan to do it.
Yeah.
Sometimes, again, best laid plans don't always come to fruition like you would wish that they would. Just like we wanted a restaurant to go in O'Charlie's, and it's gonna be a bank.
Right.
We would have loved for it to have been a restaurant, but we're always trying, we're listening, and it crushes our heart too when we can't make things happen as quick as we'd like to, or can't bring those wishes and dreams. I've been there, like I said, 33 years. I want a bowling center. I want an entertainment place. I have 4 grandbabies, right? I'm still a kid at heart. There's things I want to do. You've got a brand new baby. We got babies all around us.
Yeah.
So quality of life means a lot. There's a lot of stress in this world, and people got a reason why every night when they go home they watch the news. And I don't know if you're like me, you either try not to watch it. I can't afford to not watch it. I need to know what's going on in our country. And so what I do, because it's important to Mount Juliet, is we try to do the best we can to create a little slice of heaven right here in Mount Juliet, Tennessee. So when people get home, at least they can escape a little of that. So that's why the Board of Commissioners and the mayor has directed me for us to do everything we can to improve the quality of life. Starts with safety, starts with beautification and cleanliness, and that's why people want to come here and stay here and invest here. But then also starts with the conveniences. The only downside about when you get conveniences is traffic. And I will say this, we are all guilty of this sometimes, and it's important. All my years in law enforcement is to, when you're in a car, try to pay attention to just driving and operating an automobile. I'm guilty of it too. You're likely guilty of it. As humans, we like to multitask. Not only is that dangerous, but what it does, it actually delays traffic. So every time a light turns green, if you're in that traffic and you're sitting still and that light goes and everybody's prepared to go and leave equal amount of space between each car safely, then traffic actually will move better. But there's so many missed opportunities in a day that the traffic plays all day catching up. Because we've all been there, and I hope that those that are watching from home will get this. Light turns green, you're the third car back. First person up there sort of lollygags around, right? Second person leaves a huge gap, so they finally get through, and you barely escape through, but that fourth car gets caught. And their mindset is if they'd have just went when that light turned green. So a lot of it, the traffic could be improved by what we do. Attentiveness, paying attention, letting us know when a light doesn't seem like it's cycling right. So it takes a team effort. We're all in this together. We're sharing these roads, and all we want, most importantly, even if it takes a little longer, is for our citizens, those that we love and care about, to get from point A to point B safely. That's, even if it takes a little longer, that's our number one priority.
Yeah, you mentioned our first responders and how we have great first responders here. It's why people want to live here. They feel safe. The last BOC meeting, you re-emphasize that when you go to bed, you put your head on the pillow at night, you want the citizens to feel safe, and they do that here. I know a bragging point for our police department right now, they're fully staffed.
Yeah.
I don't know that many police departments can say that. I don't know many businesses in the world can say they're fully staffed, and especially in the police department where, there are things where they're being attacked from multiple angles, and you have a police force here that is great, fully staffed. That's certainly amazing, is it not?
It is. You know, for somebody that served a long time in it and had multiple family members that did the same thing, it does create comfort in knowing that you've got a good, not only a police force, but emergency services. They're protecting them. My dad had a massive heart attack in this community. Had it not been for WEMA and the firefighters that arrived, because we didn't have our own EMS then and still don't, but it had not been for them, they saved his life because time matters. That, to me, are the most important priorities, period. And I know it is for you, I know it is for our elected body, and it should be for everybody. We're going to put our citizens first in that. And sometimes that takes a back seat even to some of the stuff we'd like to do in traffic, because emergency services are very expensive. But we have a great police department. We have great chiefs and leadership in our police department and in our fire department as well. And so they're training all the time to make sure that we're giving and treating citizens the way that they should be treated. That's important to us as well. We're getting, if you wanted a diversified police department and fire department, you're getting it, because there's literally folks moving here from all over the country. Matter of fact, we just had Officer Cruz that was here earlier is from the NYPD. Now, when I first came here 33 years ago, I was considered an outsider. I came from Nashville. 33 years ago, and it's like, you're lucky to get got on, because
They're like, who's this guy?
yeah, who's this guy from Nashville? You know, because it was like that seemed so far away, because back then, everybody typically hired somebody that was from the community, right? It was smaller, but now we're getting folks from Chicago, Philadelphia, New York, Metro Police Department, some of the larger departments, because they love the quality of life here, and they like the fact that our citizens appreciate and respect law enforcement. They don't necessarily are not respected across the country, but I think there's just something different about Mount Juliet, Tennessee, is we really appreciate them, and that's shown. I've talked to plenty of the new officers, and I always say, well, how you doing? Are you liking it? They said, I just can't believe how good the citizens are to them. And that makes my heart feel good, because think about it. These are the men and women that put their life on the line every day just to show up, not knowing what will happen. And when I was in law enforcement, we had a saying, is the most important thing is just to get home safe at the end of the night to your family. So they're getting out there trying to protect you, and they do a really good job of it. And so we appreciate that when our citizens love on them, because it's important. We lay our heads down at night. There's a handful of men and women out here patrolling these streets, and y'all see it in the LPR camera hits. You see it in the burglars that we're catching and people doing stuff, trying to break into our mom and pop businesses, for which we take that real personal, because mom and pop businesses are the folks out there listening.
Right.
They're the folks that spent hundreds of thousands of dollars to open businesses, and the last thing we want is for them to come in that next morning, find their business has been burglarized.
Yeah, and the pride here within the police department's amazing. I know that we've done Coffee with a Cop before it was cool, and everybody else was doing Coffee with a Cop, and so many people are patronizing that business and wanting to meet their first responders, not even just kids, but we're talking about grown-ups just wanting to bend the ear of the police chief or whoever. So That is certainly encouraging in the community, and hopefully we always keep that here. As far as looking forward, we have a big event on Wednesday, the Mayor's State of the City.
Yep.
He is, I'm the public information officer. I'm supposed to know everything about the city. I learned something from the mayor. I'm sure you do as well when he presents up there and does a fantastic job. Can you just tell us maybe a couple of things he might be talking about as far as our first responders, as far as looking ahead to what Mount Juliet has at stake? And I hear the Board of Commissioners are all going to be there as well and might have something pretty cool to tell people about.
They do, you know, like as right now, you were talking about earlier, we've been in this building since 1995. There's a plan at some point in the future to build a new city hall. But the mayor and the commission will tell you, we're looking at that, but it takes a back seat to our fire department that we're building down on Lebanon Road. We want to build another fire department. We need to build the new fire station that's behind City Hall now. We need to build a new one. That was the oldest one in the fleet, you say. We're real close to starting on the police department. The commission's just been so supportive in that. These aren't cheap ventures. You're talking about $29 to $30 million, and everything's higher today. It's just the way it is, you know, just like everybody's house is probably worth more today, so things just cost more. But hopefully over the next 12 months or in 2023, we know for sure we'll get the new fire station down by Green Hill High School open. Our fire stations just aren't fire stations, they're EMS. Most all of our firefighters now are either EMTs or paramedics and firefighters. They're cross-trained and they can do both. That way if a fire truck shows up and the EMS vehicle is busy, they can help you. They can render aid right there instead of saying, I'm just really here to, you know, get cars out of the road or put the fire out. That's another thing I love about our fire department, what we're doing. Plus, we're getting our own EMS division. So literally this year, it's like our EMS division will open, our new fire station will open, police department groundbreaking will occur. Hopefully, the plans for the either new city hall or the other, we've already thrown it out there for the state about the interchange, so we hope to get some good news on that. The slip lane down on 70 that if you're going east on Sibby, everybody knows once you get past Park Glen and you're trying to go to the high school, Mount Juliet High School, it's pretty tough on Lebanon Road to get to Golden Bear. Well, the city's going to spend somewhere between $500,000 to $750,000 just to put a simple, what we call slip lane in. It's like a right turn lane. It took so long to get that because we had to get the right of way and the land acquired through somebody else's property to make that possible. Well, that'll help a ton on Lebanon Road until the state can widen it. So what's exciting about what we try to do here in Mount Juliet is to make this year better than last year. You know, 2022 was awesome. I mean, you know, there's things that we've had happen over the last few years we'd like to not have happen, like floods and tornadoes and windstorms and COVID and pandemic. But we made the most of it. Every year, even during that, we went up as a city. Things are a little tougher now with inflation rates and costs and things of that nature. So we just got to make the most of it. You know, tough times just makes us tougher. And so we're looking for 2023 to be even better. I mean, we think about Cadillac dealers and Whataburgers and Campbell car washes. We're working with a couple more nice restaurants for Highway 70, the Lebanon Road corridor, which I think people really get a kick out of.
Yeah.
But this Wednesday, there could be an announcement made by the mayor, and I'll leave that up to him, and he's been working hard with the commission. Staff's been helping where we can, but that really lays at the feet of the commission. They deserve all the credit on this one. If the announcement is made on Wednesday and people learn of it, I think it's going to be something they're very excited about for our community. And I can tell you that there is a contract for a bowling center. We've had those before. Contracts doesn't necessarily mean it's a done deal, but it means it's very encouraging.
Is that the letter of intent you've been talking about? Okay.
Yeah, and we've worked really hard on that. And I've been to this particular bowling company's, one of their centers that they've got elsewhere in Middle Tennessee. And I can tell you, if this comes to fruition, our citizens, I'll be happy. My grandkids will be happy. But we work harder. The mayor and the commission works harder than people realize to get them. These businesses that everybody wants, they just don't always happen. It seems like sometimes in the 11th hour something happens, financing falls apart, or they can't get the deal to work. For example, you've been involved with me on this 40 to 80,000 square foot indoor waterless water park, you know, with all the jumpy stuff. We're so close, and the gentleman that's a resident of Mount Juliet has these all over the country. And he wants to do one here, and we always just get so close, and there's always seems like something in the 11th hour that derails it. Just know we're working, and these folks want to be here. But all the parts have to fall into place, just like an organic grocery store.
Yeah.
I know that folks want it, but organic grocery stores don't normally come until you get about 45,000 residents. You know, and we're right there.
Yeah.
We're on the cusp of it. We're not quite there yet. And the reason they do that is organic grocery is a specialty store. It's not like your typical grocery store where you just go in there and you sort of get anything you want.
Right.
It's specific. People go there for a specific
niche
reason.
store, right?
They'll pass by a normal grocery store to specifically go there. So they had to have a certain amount of residents within a certain driving distance to feel like that store will sustain itself, which makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. And Kenny, any last messages that you have for us? We certainly appreciate your time and everything you're able to do for us. I'll add a point to that. We don't have a lot of vacant buildings. You see other cities that
Yeah.
have vacant buildings. Every building just about is occupied, which means good for business and good for the city, and it really makes the world go around here in the city of Mount Juliet. But we've covered new businesses, state of the city, Central Pike, safe driving.
Yeah.
Our great first responders. I think we hit the nail on the head with all of that. Any last message you have for us before you sign us off?
I just want to thank the staff in general at the city of Mount Juliet, all of our employees for the wonderful job they do, because a lot of them are front and center. You don't see them out there, but they're behind the scenes making things happen in the city. I got to thank them, and I got to thank our citizens, because we understand it's like a family member. Sometimes we do things, you go, why are they doing what they do? We understand that. Like I said, it pains us when we can't get something just right, but anybody that's listening to this, I hope that they know how hard we do work. Trust me, if I could come in tomorrow and wave a magic wand and fix all these roads and make them wide like everybody wants them to do, I know the mayor and the commission would do the same thing. But I know a lot of times it's hard for the citizens to see what's going on behind the scenes. A lot of these things are just much more complex than they appear, and they can be frustrating sometimes because you're so close and you want them to happen, and you're there and you feel like you've done everything you can and it still doesn't happen. And I think citizens understand that just for things in life in general. You know, I always wanted to be taller. I always want to be more muscular.
too.
You know, always something you want, and you can't quite get there. Well, it's the same way in city government. Life is not always as easy as we want it to, but I want the folks to know that we can't do what we do without them. We can't do that. And, you know, so just keep doing what you're doing. Please, please, please keep shopping locally, but in particular, please, please keep shopping our mom and pop businesses. You know, these are the paper mills of the world, you know, and the Sisters Whimsies and, you know, the Houston's Meat and Produce. These are things that folks that just like you go to church with on Sunday, Barrel House Restaurant, you know, the Cats, the Calabria Pizza, you name it. These are the people that are, you know, the American Jewelries of the world that's been here for 40 and 50 years. Please patronize them, because when you take money elsewhere, yes, of course, it helps the city. It helps us with police and fire and roads and all the other city services. But it helps that family that said, I took it upon myself to open a business in your city and spend a lot of money. And anybody that's lived here for any time, you've seen some businesses close. You know, and like the juice bar, those such sweet people, you know, they did the best they could to hang on for as many years as they could, but they just didn't get enough business to sustain them. And that hurts for them, and it hurts for us to see that, because you realize that's real to them and it's real to us. So please, if you do not shop if you can do anything about it outside of the corporate limits of Mount Juliet if you live here, because you're really sincerely not only helping that, but you're helping your schools and everything else. You know, it's easy to go into Nashville and say it's just money. But if you can wait until you get back here and buy it from your community, that's why these businesses are here.
Absolutely. Well, for Kenny Martin, I'm Justin Beasley. Thank you again for joining us on this live stream. We're going to hopefully do this about once a month when we can get Kenny on here and spread all the great news happening in Mount Juliet. We'll have the live stream of the Mayor's State of the City probably around 11:30, 11:45 on Wednesday, so mark your calendars for that. Certainly want to thank the VOC for all they do, the Board of Commissioners, all the work they do, all the residents and the staff people here as well at the city, and Kenny Martin as well. So Kenny, thank you for the time, my man. Have a great rest of your week.
Justin, thank you for all you're doing, buddy.
Yes, sir.
Good job.